Will Steve Wilks be the 49ers defensive coordinator next year? Or is he essentially a lame duck DC right now?
Gosh, if the 49ers defense turns it around, certainly. But I thought there was a chance. The way they were talking and the way that Kyle Shanahan was coming out and putting him on blast, I'm like, is he going to make it through the bye week? And so he made it through the bye week, but the reason he made it is because they're going to put him on the field. I guess that makes a difference. I don't think so, man. It's going to be hard. This defense is going to have to play really good down the stretch in order for that to happen. I don't. If I had to guess right now, I would say no, he's not going to be.
I would think it feels like an almost certainty that he's not going to be the defensive coordinator here next year. I mean, once you start moving the guy around, that feels like the last move before firing him. It's like, look, we could fire you right now, but it's midseason and we don't have a great replacement lined up. So we're just going to start jerking you around. Sorry. Like the Steelers did it with Matt Canada, who's like the least popular offensive coordinator in the league. And I think a lot of people would expect him to get fired after this year. And they moved him from the booth to the field. And it's like, cool. You know what that means, Matt? Like maybe you should start looking to sell your house or whatever. I don't know. Sorry, Steve, but yeah, I don't think you're going to be here next year. And you probably never should have taken this job. And I bet he's calling his wife at night being like, why am I here? How did we get into this? This is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely put some blame on Shanahan, but I also put a little bit on Steve Wilks. He knew what the job was when he came here. He knew Kyle Shanahan, I'm sure, was very clear. Hey, we're going to run this defense. This is what I expect. Can you make that happen? And Steve's like, yeah, I can do that. I can work with that. And maybe you couldn't work with that. And maybe that's the issue. I think Steve Wilks is a fine coach, but this marriage, at least right now, doesn't seem to be working. And like I said, maybe they can turn it around, but in this moment, I'd be hard pressed to say that he would be here next year. I just don't. I think the path is very small to get there, very narrow.
Yeah. It's too bad. It seems like if you know he's not going to be here next year, it's not working out. Like, why not just move on now? But it just shows you have no one else. This is a really big decision. You can't trade for a defensive coordinator midseason.
Yeah, when you fire coaches midseason, that's not usually a recipe to win a Super Bowl. I think it's only happened once or twice in history, and the last time it happened, I believe, was actually the Ravens team that beat the 49ers. It was the
Ravens. They fired Cam Cameron.
Yeah, that was it.
Yes.
So
yeah,
that it doesn't happen very often. Yeah, so yeah,
maybe they should do it.
They don't. Yeah, maybe, but like I said, that's not a recipe for success usually for a Super Bowl winning team. But maybe.
No, moving the guy from the booth to the sideline is the recipe for success. I think from now on, he should have to do a cartwheel and a backflip and a round off before he calls a play.
She just move them all around the stadium.
Shake it up.
They could make a whole thing out of this. And every time they're on primetime, it's like, where's Steve Wilks? And he wears the Where's Waldo shirt. And you got to find him in the stadium where he's calling plays. They could turn this into a thing.
Seems ridiculous. I feel bad.
Do you think?
Sorry, Steve.
Do you think he's the problem, though? That's the real question. Is Steve Wilks the actual problem? Because it really does seem like everybody, not just the team, but the fan base, writers, journalists, they're all putting this on Steve Wilks as if he wasn't hired, this team would have been in a much better place. And these problems that they have all across the team wouldn't exist if Steve Wilks wasn't here. And I just don't agree with that.
Okay. I do think he's part of the problem. He doesn't have
it's not solutions. A solution. Yeah.
But who hired him? Why doesn't anyone ever hold Kyle Shanahan accountable for anything? And even if you say something like that, journalists will make fun of it. Remember the first few weeks of the season, there were people at The Athletic saying, "Oh, should we hold Kyle accountable now?" Dude, he's 3-0. Why don't you wait a little bit before fawning over him like a fan? Why don't you wait a little bit, man? And now it's like, yeah, maybe you should hold him accountable, man. Instead of pointing your finger at Steve Wilks, who's the easy target, the low-hanging fruit, Why don't you have the courage to actually criticize the head coach of a football team? I don't know why people won't do that out here in the Bay Area. They treat Kyle Shanahan like he's Steve Kerr or something. I think they've been covering Steve Kerr too long. There's a big difference between Steve Kerr and Kyle Shanahan. And once Steve Kerr wins one championship, we can talk about it. But he's not there yet. Did I say Steve Kerr? Kyle Shanahan
You
wins
did
one
Kyle
championship.
Shanahan. And we know
Once
what
Kyle
you
Shanahan wins one, I was on a roll there for a second. I messed it up, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Kyle is a good coach. And I think both things can be true. He can be a good coach, but also needs to be held accountable a little bit more.
Yeah. I
Nothing wrong with
mean,
that.
someone who's won 4 championships, I can see people being like, you know what? Who are we to question this guy? He knows what he's doing. He's not going to win a championship every year. That's not him. That's not him. He hasn't proven that he knows how to win a championship. Kerr has. You know, I don't even know if
I would
McVay has,
venture
but
to
McVay has
guess.
that.
I would venture to guess that more 49er fans question the pedigree of Belichick since Tom Brady has left than they will Kyle Shanahan. And Belichick has a lot of hardware.
Boku.